Welcome again to episode 10 of the A Travel Talk Show. Colin, we hit double digits, buddy.
That's pretty awesome. 10's a big one.
10's a big one. I feel
Love
like
it.
it's almost like a birthday.
It is.
Yep.
We'll have to celebrate after for sure.
Yes. So let's get through the details. Okay, this is our legal department because we have the big budget here. So our legal department, massive legal department, has told us, we need to mention some stuff. So here's the first thing. This talk show is recorded live on Facebook and is available on Facebook Live right after the show. Doesn't start there because it always gets better here. The following day, we publish an edited version. Take out the bloops, maybe any of the little gaps in there. And then what we'll do is we'll republish it on Facebook, the edited version. We put it on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Tumblr, YouTube, and then we'll flag it across the Reddit channels. Keeps going, Colin, because it's always good news here, is that we also will publish it on our award-winning website, ehCanadaTravel.com and blog. And what we'll do there is we'll flog it throughout all the provinces, and also we will promote this wonderful time that we're going to have today. We got a really, really awesome guest today. But before we get to that, let me introduce who moi is. My name is Greg Girard. I am the co-founder of ehCanadaTravel.com. I do public speaking. I also a small town community consultant and a top-ranked global and Canadian travel blogger. And then I'm going to turn the show over to Junior next door.
That'll be me. I am a co-founder of ehCanadaTravel.com. My name's Colin Girard. I am co-host of this wonderful A Travel Talk Show. I'm co-inhabiting life with my brother during COVID. Hey,
Whoa,
how do you like that, eh?
That was pretty smooth, pretty slick, dude.
Thanks.
You've been practicing, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, all day.
Woo.
I mean, week.
Yes. For you newbies out there, we've got hi guys from Western Australia. Nice. Hey, Joe. Nice to see you, Joe. Welcome to the show. This is a participation show there, people. So tell us where you're from. Tell us who you are. We know based on our analytics that a lot of you are shy, and we get that. But for you that aren't shy, speak up into our little comment section below and participate and tell us where you're from. So welcome to Joe. Joe's our first participant. We are broadcasting live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. from self-isolation and practicing physical distancing from our base camp here in Somewheres, Canada.
Location.
It's a secret location. Some of you followers know, and then they posted under comments, so they probably already know where we're at. But anyway, agenda. This is where we give you a little rundown. So the agenda, we're going to do a little splash on This Week in Tourism. And we'll talk a little bit about what we're finding. Our guest tonight has a lot of influence in what we read. We read the tracker they put out. And I'm sure our guest will tell you a bit about that. Who is this guest, Colin? Let me tell you. This is Edwin, quote, Eddie Sheppard. He's from Associate Vice President at Leger. And just for you people know, Leger, and I've been watching them for a while, and I've been fortunate now that I've sort of made a connection with them because I really love the stuff that they pump out about tourism. And I highly suggest everyone else to follow them on their formats. And again, I'm sure Eddie's going to tell us a little about that. But Leger is the largest Canadian-owned, Colin, Canadian-owned. You know how big we are about anything that has a Canadian on it. We will support 120 billion%. It's the largest Canadian-owned polling station.
Oh, nice.
Polling firm. So what they do is they go around, they make all these big polls where they're coming out with all these numbers about all the different facets and all the different important aspects of the day. So Eddie is nice enough to have joined us today, and he is going to, the question we want to answer today is, what are the numbers telling us about the current and future tourism and travel trends? And believe me, Colin, our clients, and you know what it's like here, where the phones and the email and the texts, where they've got a lot of questions and they're scared. Let's not hide it. They are scared out there. And I think as we said from day one, is I think it's better that we're honest with everybody on what's going to happen in our market so they can make the necessary prepared, opposed to getting slammed in the face with surprises. So I'm really happy to have our guest here from Leger, and Edwin Sheppard is going to share with us some of his insight, and it's going to be a very, very, very powerful show. So then we finish with our isolation vacation. Guess, do you know where it is this week, or am I surprising you? Call.
Oh, you talking to me?
You're the only one on the screen, dude.
Oh, what'd you say?
Do you know what the isolation vacation is?
I don't know.
Okay,
you've been hiding it from me all day.
I know. Okay, we're gonna keep it that way. What we do every do every year, every episode, is we pick out a featured destination in Canada which really resonated with us. And we are in isolation, and we know that we got to keep travel local at this point until it opens up more and more down the road. And again, our guest tonight is the perfect guest to help us with that. And then with the isolation vacation, we're sort of prepping up some of these really cool destinations down there for Canadians to visit as we go through our different phases of recovery. So my name is Greg. This is Colin. And we are the Brothers of Tourism. And we'd like to both welcome you to the A Travel Talk Show. Because we got such a cool guest, just because we have a cool guest, we're going to get through this week in tourism real quick. You know,
well, I mean, the information he's going to have will be, you won't get that anywhere else.
We're setting that bar real high for Eddie, eh?
Oh, yeah. Your intro was awesome, by the way.
Way up here now. It's way up here.
He's going, no.
We don't do the low bar thing.
Yeah, no. Well, your intro was so awesome. I mean, it's pretty hard to come off after that.
I know.
Yeah,
no pressure, Eddie. Eddie's in our virtual green room, enjoying our virtual snacks and beverages.
Yeah. We treat our guests well here.
Exactly.
No expense spared.
No. So there's two things there, bro, I want to talk about. One, this reopening. It's starting to talk. People are starting to talk about it, right? And some of the stuff I've been reading out there is certain countries are reopening a little bit differently than others. They have different concepts on how they're going to reopen. China and South Korea are reopening international travel. And what they're calling it, and this is sort of a buzzword I'm starting to hear out there, it's not as bad as pivot, because you know how I think that word is just terrible.
Everybody knows now.
Yeah, everyone knows. And what they're calling it now is safe corridors that they're calling bubbles. So they're saying that something like this, like however, how many you are opening the borders, they're going to do it like tourism bubbles on how they're going to open it. You can go to certain places, but not other places. And then the other aspect with this whole tourism bubble thing is that and I don't know, and I hope Eddie, maybe Eddie will touch on this, but what they're saying, and here's what I don't figure out. So I'm a traveler and I'm going to go to this country. And what I'm reading is that in some countries, when I go there, I have to go into a 14-day quarantine. Now, I don't know anyone in your circles that could afford a 3-week holiday, where 1 week I get the holiday and 2 weeks I sit in the hotel room watching Love Boat. I don't know. I mean, what the heck's going on here, right? So it doesn't. It
reduces the attraction for sure. I mean, it's,
come and visit our beautiful country from the hotel room for 2 weeks, and we'll let you have 1 week where you can enjoy the rest of it. But you have to stay within our bubble. Oh yeah,
sounds like fun.
I'm forking out $5,000 right now for that one.
Yeah.
The second thing, the feds are giving out $30 million plus some, depending, to support community recovery, which is cool because all the communities are screaming, all the businesses are screaming. Destination Canada, and what they're doing with that is Destination Canada and the provincial and territorial marketing organizations are going to play the big role, the key role, the role in investing those funds. Okay. So we got one body that's going to decide where the money goes. And the one thing I have a hesitation with this is that if it's like anything in the past, it's the signature destinations that get all the attention, and the little guys that are always screaming for money and want to build their tourism are going to get left behind again.
Exactly.
And this is what bothers me with the way it is, because it's the little 98% of tourism is small, medium businesses, and it's these little communities, and we know many communities that would love to just get a little bit of guidance on how to get their tourism into a state where it actually becomes a good GDP and a good ROI for that community. Right? 86 Canadians are concerned with the second wave. Are you part of the 86 or are you part of the 12?
I am definitely part of the 86. I mean, it's not going to be as easy as some people are making it out to be. I mean, in Canada, we're doing pretty good, but you look at the global numbers and they are not looking good. I mean, we can't survive as just Canada.
And I think, and again, I hope Eddie touches on that and gives us a little input on that, because that's the $1 million question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's bring on this special guest. His name is Edwin Sheppard. He specializes in analytical, and he's analytical and results-oriented professional. He's in numbers. He loves the graphs. He loves the stats. He looks into it, analyzes it, and shares it. They have advanced analytics, and this is where Eddie's specialties. His advanced analytics are for tourism, education, healthcare, energy, finance, and more. If I list them all off, we'd be here all night again, right? So it's an hour show. Leger is the largest Canadian-owned polling firm, and I love that part. Canadian largest. I think that's cool.
Gotta support each other.
Yeah, why not, right? And Eddie, his title is the Associate Vice President of Leger, and he is the man of the hour. So what I'm going to do, Cole, is I'm going to bring Eddie onto the show.
Sounds like an awesome plan. I can't wait to hear what he has to say.
Yes. Welcome to the show, Eddie.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Excellent.
Thanks for joining us.
No, thank you. This is awesome.
Yes. So for you who have just joined us, my name's Greg. Colin's in the middle. Mr. Edwin Sheppard of Leger, the analytics guru that we brought in from Calgary, is joining us here today from a Canadian-owned largest polling firm. And I'll tell you right now, I am pretty stoked on the tracker you guys are putting out all the time. Those stats are fantastic.
Yeah, we kind of adapted each week to look at new trends that are kind of popping up in the world, essentially, to really try and get a pulse. That's, when this all happened, everyone wanted to know what's going on across the world here. So we thought it was a great opportunity to kind of invest in this approach to really help inform, Canadians and Americans in terms of what people's perceptions are of COVID. It's a thing that is generational. It's something that's going to have an impact on our lives for a while. So it's really important for us to kind of get a sense of, what's happening here and what people are thinking moving forward, and how people are, adjusting to the reopening and different elements like that. So it's been great. We've gotten a lot of really good feedback on it. And it's kind of continually evolving as this whole process evolves. So.
Yeah. So you guys are the bigwigs on the Canadian market. So kudos to you. Canada high five. And you are a big part of that story, Edwin. I mean, let's face it. You're holding down the fort there in Calgary. You're a big part of the tourism part. You've got a lot of good tourism background, good tourism info. So why don't you? I know we're notorious for our introductions and how flamboyant we are. So, but I know I missed some good stuff, Edwin. And why don't you fill us a little bit about who you are and a little bit about Leger?
Yeah, as a single child, I hate talking about myself, so it's kind of a bit of an anomaly there. But we'll see how it goes. So, I'm the associate vice president at Leger here in Calgary, and as you've said a few times, we're the largest Canadian-owned market research company. So, we have 8 offices across Canada. We have 1 office in Philadelphia as well. So we have quite a bit of breadth across, and we have the ability to work in both languages as well. So being in Canada, that's a huge plus for us. But I guess on my side of things, to start off with, I've been with Leger since last September. So prior to that, I've had a few different kind of consulting jobs, and kind of my career started working in tourism. So my first ever consulting job was actually working on the Travel Alberta Remember to Breathe campaign. So that was a pretty big pretty big first job to have when I kind of broke into the industry. And I was kind of on the back end of that. So I was more of doing the grunt work and the back end thing. But, it's a campaign that still has legs and has kind of really withstood the test of time. So, within all of that as well, I moved to Calgary. It's almost 13 years ago now, for my PhD at the U of C here. So my actual background, this is a bit of a sidebar, is that I did my PhD in love and romantic relationships. So I actually got a doctorate in love, I guess you could say. So I guess that's kind of like tourism somehow. But so then I kind of transitioned to consulting, and that's where the analytics come into play from my grad school work. And then for the past 5 or 6 months, I'm just, I'm continually blown away by what Leger provides and what they do, even though I'm an employee of them. It's a company that is continually evolving and trying to, it's a very client first approach in terms of, we're willing to invest in different platforms and different technologies to make sure we can provide the appropriate tools for our clients. So it's, as you said, the largest Canadian company. We have a panel of almost 500,000 Canadians that we can employ for research. So, we have people from across the Canada, all walks of life. We run a weekly omnibus survey. We run a weekly COVID tracker survey. As I said earlier, we're doing a syndicated tourism study as well that we're launching. Today is actually the launch of that. So we're kind of getting a sense on the pulse of the attitudes and behaviors in the tourism industry. It's a really impressive company. And as I said, even being an employee there, I can't help but be pretty impressed by what they do.
Excellent. So I've really enjoyed your weekly COVID tracker reports you've been sharing on LinkedIn, your company, Leger, about the traveler and tourism trends in that we're seeing developing, because you guys have been doing this since the get-go, just as COVID, through COVID. So you're sort of giving us the analytics as it's sort of unfolding. So the question I got, Eddie, is what are the trends and habits forming right now for domestic travelers? Right now in Canada, based on your polling numbers, and then maybe what we can do is, if once you've given us sort of a breakdown of where the numbers are telling us for domestic, maybe you can give us a little bit of a summary of what we should be prepared for on the international traveler markets.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing we really started to see was just cancellations. So when all of this broke and the travel bans obviously put in place, and the fear of contracting COVID and the kind of that side of things, there was a significant increase in cancellations of travel across the country, really. So about 50% of people changed or canceled their travel plans entirely. So that's shifting a little bit now. So travel in the spring and early summer months, that was probably the hardest hit overall, just because that was kind of the peak impact of COVID. So cancellations further out in terms of the fall and winter travel, they're not quite there just yet. So it's likely going to become a little more prevalent as the months go on here. But currently the spring and early summer season have had the kind of the biggest impact. So what we're also seeing though is it's not necessarily outright cancellations, but more so change in their plans. So we're seeing a trend in people, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on, I'm sure, but they're shifting from flight destinations to driving destinations. So it's people are still going to get vacations. So, just because COVID's happening, people are still going to get their 2 or 3 or 4 weeks vacation at their job. So, and now everyone's been kind of hung up in their home for so long, they're probably a little sick of seeing the same walls here. So there's an itch to go. And I think the first step to recovery is likely going to be that short haul kind of road trip type destination. So that's kind of the first thing we're seeing, is there's a shift in how people are thinking about travel. So it's not so much those large overseas trips, but it's more the local, the regional trips, provincial trips, to really kind of, get away from their home and get away from the city, at the same time kind of experience a bit of a break. So that's kind of the one element there. The other thing is, it's a lot of it has to do with comfort right now. So we're kind of assessing when will people feel comfortable to travel again, really. So we ran a study a few weeks ago, kind of separate from the COVID tracker, to get a sense of at what point are you willing to travel regionally, provincially, within your provincial borders, across borders, and then across Canada to the US and overseas. And we're really seeing that, half of Canadians within 2 months of say them removing the protective measures, they're completely comfortable traveling within their region. So regional travel, I think, has a leg up from that, because they know it, they're familiar with it. They can, they can find their own space and navigate that way. And then, as you go 6 months out, it's almost 3/4 of Canadians are willing to travel regionally. So I think that's going to be the biggest winner right off the bat, is that regional travel market, because they have a captive audience right away. Yeah. It's going to take a shift in how we think, but they're going to be there for sure. And then, as you get further out from right now, people get a little more comfortable. So travel to the rest of Canada, that's within about 7 to 8 months or so. People are a little more comfortable going across Canada. Going to the States or overseas, that's about a year out from now. So we find that people aren't really overly comfortable with traveling outside of their country. And there's implications around all that, right? There's can you get insurance for travel insurance, the financial implications, the health risks, the uncertainty there. And as you guys were talking in the intro there's that quarantine aspect as well. So, do you have the ability to spend 2 weeks in quarantine and spend a week on vacation and come back and probably to spend 2 weeks in quarantine here? So is it, do you have 5 weeks vacation? And it's probably not. So
there you go.
So international travel is going to take a big hit.
Yeah. So you're figuring with international travel, do you think how long, and I know this is not a fair question, Eddie, but we're going to throw it at you anyway, see if it sticks. But how long do you think, is there going to be a point we are going to hit respectable levels of tourism that we had pre-COVID? Are we going to be there again? Is it even possible to hit there again? Is the mindset so whacked that it's going to be really hard to get to that level again?
I think it's an uphill battle for sure. When you think of COVID has impacted the tourism industry, like, in my opinion, no other industry really has felt the impact of COVID like tourism, because it hits every single level of society for the most part when you look at tourism. And I think, there's projections right now, and it's hard to make projections because, if they come out with a vaccine tomorrow and they can give it to every single person in the world, then obviously people might feel comfortable traveling again. So, there's definitely things in play that will speed up people's perceived recovery process. And that's the one thing we're doing in a study we're launching today, as I said, is that we're looking at what needs to happen to make you feel comfortable. It's not so much is it 1 month or 6 months or 10 months. It's more so, is it that you can get travel insurance? Is it there's a vaccine? Is it a stabilization in the rates of COVID? So we're trying to see what actual event needs to take place to help people get that confidence back. But what they're projecting right now is that when you think of the other major events that have kind of really impacted air travel and the tourism industry, when you think back to 9/11, in terms of getting back to the same kind of level of tourism prior to 9/11, it was about 3 years to get back to that level of air travel. And the economic downturn kind of in 2008, 2009 took about 2 years to recover from that. Right now, they're projecting 5 years of recovery from COVID. So that's kind of the initial projections, is that, early, say January of 2020, to get back to that level of travel is going to take about 5 years. And, again, there's so many factors at play that could kind of diminish that return there. But I think when you think of that, when you have 5 years of air travel to take to recover, that's a huge opportunity for national and provincial and regional tourism outfitters, because obviously they're missing out on the international traveler, but now they have an entire home base of people that they can kind of bring out back into their own backyard and to really get to experience this what they have in their own country. So, and I don't think a lot of people take advantage of that necessarily. Wow. So the projections right now for international travel they're not great. And when you think of people's level of comfort, what we're seeing in the research too is that people just aren't comfortable on airplanes right now. And there's a lot of things that need to change within air travel to help improve comfort. And I know there are things that they're talking about, removing the middle seat, taking out the overhead baggage aspect. So there's a lot of things that are going to, help perceptions of safety in air travel. But I think we're going to see a big shift away from that for a little bit. Into that road trip and that more domestic tourism, and potentially train travel. We had a bit of a discussion on that earlier here, that train travel might see a resurgence here, because it's an opportunity that really allows for distancing, it allows for sanitary procedures. There's windows everywhere, so you can kind of a long way of answering your question. That's going to be a long battle for international travel.
I think, and we all agree it's going to be a dogfight for that international travel. And here's one thing that I found really interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong. You'd know, I think, know this better than I would. But Australia has their tourism is 80% domestic. And then I heard that in Canada, our domestic tourism is about running around 30 to 40. So some countries are going to have a lot easier time on selling this domestic tourism. And and why is Canada having that's so low? Or am I just out to lunch and these are fake news?
No, I don't know the numbers offhand, but I think it's in that ballpark for sure. I think part of it, we have people kind of take it for granted, I think, when you live in a place that has these opportunities. So I think that, for Australia, it's definitely a much more expensive to leave Australia. I've never left Australia before. I've never been to Australia, but I'm assuming it's expensive to leave the country there and to go elsewhere, or the continent as well. But, in Canada, you can get fairly cheap flights to go to the States and go to Florida and go to Hawaii. And, when you look at the pre-COVID flights to Europe, you can get pretty cheap flights that are almost the same as domestic travel. So I think that's kind of a detractor there, is that, you can fly to London, England for the same price that I can fly from Calgary to Toronto, right? So when you look at that aspect, when you look at what you can get for your return on investment, you might consider going a little bit further, because you get that, that once in a lifetime trip kind of idea. But now with that downturn in air travel and international travel, I think we're going to see our domestic traveler numbers skyrocket. So I think there's definitely there's less funds that come in from that, right? Because the international travelers come and they obviously have the resources to do the tours, do the hotels, and do all those things. So there's going to be a bit of shift there in terms of what people are spending money on. But I think there still is a large opportunity for operators to kind of market domestically and locally.
Okay, good. So it's no secret that tourism businesses in Canada are taking a beating. We touched on this at the beginning on how the different levels of tourism businesses are being affected in different ways. What is research telling us about what's the state of mind? Are the numbers telling us, and about what are the mindset and the state of mind of our Canadian small and medium-sized tourism businesses right now, based on what you guys are hearing on your end?
It's kind of a mixed bag, right? Obviously, there's a lot of fear. These are people's livelihoods. So the huge downturn right now, and the fact that some operators haven't been able to function for 3 or 4 months now is a huge hit to their operating capacity. And what we see is that most people have kind of that 4 or so month backing where they can make it at their current operating costs and kind of carry out their business for that long. But then after that, it's a bit of a mystery, right? And with the reopening, no one really knows when things will turn around in terms of bringing back the funds to these businesses. And then when they reopen, they don't know what their operating capacity is going to be like. So they don't know if they can only have half capacity, what they have to put in place to actually make sure people are protected and meeting those procedures. So there's going to be costs that are tied to that as well. So there's definitely that financial concern. But we actually see, though, is that the operators know they're going to lose money. It's no secret to anybody that they're losing a lot of money here. So what we're actually seeing is a shift in mentality where people are they're considering what they can do. They're looking to rebuild now. So I think we're at that stage where it's been a few months now, and the economic impact has been felt, and it's going to continue to be felt. But I think right now operators are trying to understand what they can do to move forward and to reignite their business. So right now it's the biggest things operators are looking for are marketing opportunities as well as consumer research, because the type of traveler they're likely going to be attracting is going to be completely different in terms of what their attitudinal behavioral perceptions are of destinations. So a lot of operators don't really know what people are looking for and what they need and what will help them feel safe. So I think that's one thing that they're not certain about, because they've never had to deal with it before. Right. Mm-hmm. It's to some extent, it's the mentality, they will build it, they will come, or if you build it, they will come. And that's kind of what has happened for a lot of it now. Whereas now it's been built, but now is the product what people are looking for? So will they come, even though it's been built? So there's going to need to be kind of systemic changes to help help these operators really shift what's happening. So there's a large deal of uncertainty. There's obviously fear, but at the same time, there's a look into the future. So they're looking to see what they can do to stay afloat, to keep operations running here. So, so it's interesting. It's a very scary time for sure, but at the same time, it marks a huge opportunity for a lot of these people to kind of reassess what they're offering and to attract a new consumer base.
Yeah. And I think we covered this a bit in the pre banter in the our lovely, and I'll plug it, our virtual green room. How'd you like those beverages, by the way?
It was great. Yeah, no, I'm not parched. So
there
it's
you
good.
go.
Nice.
There you go. So one of the things we were touching a little bit on is how with some of the businesses, they just don't they might not know what to do, or if they do know what to do. One of the things that I think we mentioned and yourself is the skill set. It's the skill set is tough. It's like a big learning curve right now.
With respect to marketing and stuff like that, there's obviously funds that are tied to that. So a lot of people don't necessarily have the opportunity to do that because it can be costly to some extent. But to have operators that can provide more full package in terms of the marketing and side of things, that's a huge opportunity for a lot of these operators because they don't really, they don't have the funds to explore that. I think they also, when you think of the local zipline company, let's say, they're going to have to shift what they're doing. So people might not want to use the same helmet or the same gloves or things like that as people. So, what is going to be needed within these operators to regain those elements? Travel is an emotional thing. People travel because they want to experience things, and the emotional joy and satisfaction that we get, the feeling of accomplishment. Whereas right now, a lot of the emotions that are being felt are fear and a lack of confidence, right? So I think that's an uphill battle for these operators because a lot of travelers right now, they're not comfortable traveling, they're not confident in the opportunities, and there's a little bit of a lack of trust. And not a lack of trust in the sense of they don't trust the operators, but a lack of trust in terms of they just don't trust society, I guess, to some extent in terms of being safe. Yeah. Right. So I think a lot of these operators, they're going to have a hard time understanding what they will need to do to regain that consumer confidence. And the marketing is going to shift. We have a lot of tourism marketing is based on that experiential development. So they're selling an experience, and they're selling a destination, and they're selling those emotions. Whereas now they're going to have to start selling safety and cleanliness and social distancing. There's likely going to be a huge shift in terms of what people are looking for when it comes to travel. And now operators might not have that knowledge just yet. Yeah. And is that the biggest disconnect, do you think? I think it's definitely, it's going to be the largest challenge, I think. When it comes to this. The other hard thing is that operators are going to have to likely change their service offer, the product offering and their service development. The challenge is now with the downturn in the revenue a lot of these people have experienced, they can't necessarily afford product development and experience development because they're kind of starting from the back end here and the bottom up. So they're going to have to kind of transition their current offering to meet the current needs of travelers, while at the same time trying to develop those new opportunities to capitalize on the local travel and domestic travel. So it's there's going to be a large shift in product offerings and marketing and communications, and I think that's where we'll start to see. There's a lot of campaigns right now in terms of worth the wait, and a lot of these operators are selling that kind of element, and letting people know it's still going to be here. Take your time and come back and get it. But I think as you said, the smaller operators, they might not have that same level of opportunity to really capitalize on that approach. Okay.
So if that's I think we've sort of touched on it, but maybe you can expand on it a bit. Is what exactly are your numbers telling us about what's the recovery look like? Like if you were to make this fantasy land recovery based on your numbers of what we're sort of, I guess I'm sort of putting you on the spot again of what the projections are looking. We're good at that, as you notice, but we're sort of, what do you sort of see out there as what is the recovery going to look like down the road?
I think, as we touched on a little bit earlier there, it's going to be kind of, you're going to see us roll out in phases. I think it's not going to be necessarily one kind of clean approach here. And, the whole recovery process, that's the $1 million question, right? That's what everyone wants to know right now. And the unfortunate side is that no one really knows what the recovery is going to look like, because it's, a lot of it's at the hands of the provincial and federal governments in terms of what they're doing for their phases with respect to the reopening. And then, so that's going to have a large impact. But I think what we're going to see is that, travel, the urge to travel is not going to go away. People want to get out there, and they want to explore. And as we said earlier, they want to get out of their houses right now. So I've been here for 3 months now with a toddler and a pregnant wife, so I wouldn't mind a vacation as well. So, but so I think people, yeah, I want a solo vacation and just kind of but yeah, so I think there's going to be that urge to travel, and I think right away there's so much uncertainty in the air when it comes to air travel that people are going to be reluctant to get on the planes. They don't know what the cost is going to be like. They don't know what the quarantine procedures will be like when they go somewhere, and they don't know what their level of safety will be on these elements. So there's that level of uncertainty there. So I think what's going to happen is that we're going to see in the short term those drivable trips will become huge. So I think, people are completely comfortable jumping in the car and driving 3 or 4, however many hours to a destination. So I think that's where we'll really see a big peak on the front end of recovery. And then as the provincial borders start to, reopen, they're open, but, as I said, they're becoming a little more accepting of provincial travel and cross-border travel. I think we'll start to see people venture a little further. So what we're seeing is that, as I said earlier, about half of Canadians are willing to travel within 2 months regionally. So they'll get in their car and drive within about 150 kilometers or 3 hours. And then following that, within 6 months, they're willing to go provincially beyond that. And then, within about 6 to 8 months, people are willing to go across Canada. So that's when you see the air travel start to go up a little bit for domestic travel. People are more comfortable currently. They feel they're more comfortable on domestic flights than international flights. And part of that's likely the length of the flight for sure. And that kind of perception. So, in reality, they're still in the same vessel, but for a domestic flight compared to an international flight, nothing's changed there, but it's just the length of time. So that's what we'll see is that, initially that domestic regional travel, that will expand to cross Canada. And then I think, we'll see the international travel increase a little bit, whether it's to the US or overseas. But again, at the same time, it really depends on what other things are happening, right? So if we start to see that second wave coming, as you said, right, there's definitely a growing concern right now that the second wave is going to happen. And our poll today actually released said that Canadians are worried that it's going to be worse than the first wave. So there's definitely there's a concern that's starting to increase there as well. So right now, people are happy with they're satisfied with the provincial reopening. So right now they're satisfied kind of federally, provincially, and locally as well in terms of how this is being dealt with. But if that second wave does come, or if there is that concern, it's going to really set this all back substantially. So, right now we can say this is how it's going to roll out in terms of recovery, but there are so many variables at play here that there's no clear timeline really.
Yeah, and I think you hit it bang on the head, Eddie, is that we just don't know what's going to be thrown at us in the next 6 months. We have no idea what's coming. And the severity.
Well, and with not only with the pandemic, but because of the financial crisis resulted from this as well, is that people don't have the funds to do that large trip right now, right? So I think that's where local travel will come into play. I think another huge trend that is starting to suggest a little bit is multi-generational travel. So, going with your grandparents and your parents and your brothers and sisters and kind of having that big family travel, because right now for the past 3 or 4 months, people haven't seen their family.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
It definitely, so there's a belief that people have missed weddings. They've had to cancel honeymoons. They have to cancel, 40th anniversaries, all the different elements. So there's a belief that multi-generational travel will actually spike, and that's where the vacation rentals are going to actually potentially increase as well. So people will be looking at getting those larger vacation homes that can kind of house the whole family. So that's kind of the one early trend that we're starting to see is that potential for multi-generational travel. And that's a whole different kind of traveler. We don't really see that too much from a domestic level, right? So international families, there are some that do come with the entire family, but that's one thing we'll start to see a little bit as well, is people want to escape the city. They want to see their entire family, so they're going to kind of get out of the city, go for that regional travel, and have kind of that more vacation rental type of element.
That's really interesting. I haven't I didn't even come across that, but that's really a good point. Is that there's the family connections are missing, and that brings in a whole different type of travel.
Yeah, well, and I think on top of that too, I think it's going to be more in the initial stages of this recovery. It's going to be purposed travel as well, right? It's not going to be just going away for a weekend because you want to go away for a weekend, because people won't take that risk necessarily. Yeah. It's going to be travel for reasons. And it could be a weekend getaway, but as I said, it could be going for your anniversary, or going for your wedding, or going for a trip, a business trip. So I think in the short term, yeah, it's going to be more purpose driven as opposed to kind of leisure driven to some extent.
Yeah. So if the market, and I totally agree that it's going to phase out in phases. We're going to do like a local, and then a regional, then interprovincial, national, international. Here's the question. If you're a small business or a regional destination marketing organization, and you know that you're going to have to go after the 250, 300 kilometers around your area, what advice would you give them to market to that traveler? Because it's a different type of marketing for them. Yeah,
and a lot of the focus is on that bigger traveler. Mm-hmm. So when you look back to previous marketing efforts for a lot of these places, they're looking for that long haul traveler, right? They kind of assume the short haul market will be there. But as we said earlier, the money comes from the long haul travelers. So how do you transition your efforts there? And I think that's a huge element, right? I think part of it is that they need to market reassurance, right? So I think we need to regrow the confidence and trust of travelers. And I think that the local operators have that ability to really highlight essentially that it feels like home, right? So you have that ability to showcase that it's not a novel environment. You know what you're getting into. You know what the safety precautions are, and that you do have the opportunity, if you want to go back to your own house. So the idea of a staycation is kind of what we're looking at here in terms of that development. So kind of explore your own backyard is the perception here. So it's a matter of catering to the emotions of fulfilling that need for escape, but also fulfilling that need for trust and confidence and safety. So I think that's the one thing, is they have to shift the mindset in terms of creating those local experiences. And I know, some operators, they do kind of that local passport. So they create a bunch of different experiences for locals that they can create kind of a local ambassador, a brand ambassador for the town kind of idea. So when I was doing some work with Tourism Jasper before, they had that approach where they made their locals their brands, basically, because it's a small kind of a small experience up there. So the locals are what drive that. So I think right now is a great opportunity you can build your product developments by getting the locals involved and using them as your product ambassadors and your brand ambassadors, right? And you can make some money along the way by doing that. At the same time, you can grow your experience and get those people talking about it. So I think that's one huge opportunity that wasn't necessarily, it was always present, but I think everyone was always looking for kind of the big fish, right? Whereas now I think it's getting what we can get, and by creating those local experiences.
Yeah, and I think, and you touched base, that's sort of and not to try and throw a plug. Okay, I'll throw a plug, but what sort of like the experience community program that we're sort of designing there, where we get all the locals involved and they're creating this content on a high volume scale, and I'm sure you can fill in the blanks here, but people want stories, they want experiences, because there is that disconnect with corporate. People are looking for that more personal experience, and there is a trust factor that's why social media is a big factor now in travels. You trust your friends, you trust your followers, you trust these people. So is that going to play into the effect on how people look on how they're going to travel?
Yeah, I think so. That experiential aspect of travel is what really it's what motivates us to travel, right? So I think I think when you think about where you want to go, and if you were to do your top 5 places to travel prior to COVID, you might not have had a lot of regional travel out there. But I think it's a huge opportunity now to educate people on those experiences, right? And not to plug our stuff, but We launched a
You go, buddy.
we launched a syndicated study today that is looking at. We're trying to find out, how knowledgeable are people of the local products, and it's going to be interesting to see what comes back in terms of, do they know about the major attractions, the restaurants, the hotspots to go to, where to stay and things like that. So, and then a sense of what are they willing to experience within those markets. So I think for the small operators, that information is pretty valuable, because it will give some insight in terms of what people know about their local market. So I think there's definitely some gaps to fill here for sure, because I don't think there's ever been a focus as heavily on local travel as there's going to have to be right now, right? Obviously, smaller operators rely a lot on local travel as well, because they don't get quite the foot traffic of the international traveler. But I think, in the short term, local travel is going to be huge for a lot of these people.
And being that you've, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but you've been a cross-Canada traveler. We've been a cross-Canada traveler. And I think all three of us will agree this country has a heck of a lot to offer.
And it's big.
Yeah.
There's a lot of space.
There is a ton of
space. We were talking in the green room there, the drive across Canada is probably one of the best experiences I've ever had as a traveler. To see what it's like from coast to coast, it's incredible. So I haven't been fortunate enough to go up to the territories, but I think I've been to every province, and when you look at the landscape and what this country offers, there's a lot, right? Like in Saskatchewan, they have the North's largest sand dunes, and I had no clue, right? So things like that are just experiences that we would have never really looked for. And now I think there's a huge opportunity for people to get to experience that.
I like it. You can plug that all you want, buddy.
The diversity of Canada is amazing. Like, and we got so amazed at how much we didn't know about each region. And like you say, just every area is so much different. I mean, you got to travel the whole country to know what the country's about.
Mm-hmm.
And take the road
if you want to picture the world's largest anything, there's the world's largest anything in every province. So there's the Shediac there. Yeah. Shediac is the axe, and the lobster, and so there's a lot of things you can see along the way.
Oh yeah, I think every town has something as the largest of something. But there is a ton to see here, and in the north, just to plug the north, definitely if you ever are up there, check out the Waterfall Highway in Northwest Territories. One of the best hidden gems in the north of Canada. But again, a plug out to Hay River.
And the buffalo.
Oh yeah,
the buffalo. I mean, it can't beat
buffalo.
Tatonka.
Really? Cool.
Oh yeah, you drive down the highway and a herd asleep on the road.
Yeah, they don't move. You got to drive around them.
You got to drive around them. Yeah. It's pretty cool. So, in closing, Edwin, is there anything, any advice, additional information you'd like to leave with our audience? Anything that we didn't touch on?
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of the main issues. I think the current thing is just that from the operator side, I think they just need to understand the traveler. We're going to experience a world of I hate the new normal phrase and all those different elements, but it's going to be the new traveler. I think it's going to be something that we haven't really experienced before in the industry. So I think that's one thing, is for the operators to get as much information as they can in terms of figuring out who that is and what they want and what they need and what will increase their desire to come to their destination. So, which is another plug for our syndicated study. On the other side of things, from the traveler side, I think it's really understanding what there is for you to explore in your region. I think, as we just said, Canada is so diverse, in that people kind of get stagnant in their own area, and they don't really know what to expect. So I think it's a great opportunity for people just to really appreciate where they're from and to love their community and their environment. So we take a lot of our immediate experiences for granted, but right now it's so, we're seeing how valuable these experiences are for us to get to do, and we can't really take it for granted. Yeah. So I think what we need to do is just look at what we can get, and find those experiences within your local region to really get to escape your home and get a bit of a break.
Yeah, I like it. Just to let you, our viewers know out there, the shy ones and the voiceful ones, Eddie Sheppard from Leger is ehCanada approved. Just so you know, he is ehCanada approved. So we love having you on the show, Eddie. But before we let you go, one more little pick of your brain. If the audience wants to follow this tracker, if they want to follow Edwin, if they want to get up to speed on Leger and all the services you provide and all the polling analytics you provide, what are some of the ways that they can start following your guys' story there at Leger and yourself?
Yeah, so
I'm not going to spill the beans. So
I guess kind of the main platform for myself would be LinkedIn. So just Edwin Sheppard on LinkedIn there. Also Leger on LinkedIn as well. So you can sign up for our weekly COVID tracker. You can get those updates regularly. You can sign up for our tourism research as well to receive that. So Leger is continuously posting new content every single day. And we're running studies in terms of tourism, the COVID tracker, a buy local study based out of Quebec. We're doing a health study based out of Toronto. We do a consumer study. So there's a lot of different, there's a lot of information that will likely be applicable to a lot of people within this audience. So I think there's a huge opportunity there to look at the Leger LinkedIn page. Also, ehCanadaTravel.com is the website to find more information that way. And it's it's on the screen there. Look at that. So I think that's a great opportunity there. But definitely follow us on LinkedIn and sign up for the weekly updates for the COVID tracker, and you'll get tons of valuable information there. We also do a weekly series as well on communication in terms of a webinar approach there as well. So that could help some people in the industry in terms of how to communicate with various elements of their employees. So it's been a hard time in terms of COVID, but it's really taught us to reframe things and provide new offerings. So I think a lot of these things, like what you guys are doing, this is a great opportunity that might not have come to life if it weren't for this kind of event necessarily. So I think it's a great platform, a good opportunity. So it's good.
Excellent. Well, Eddie, it has been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to read my email box tomorrow morning on all the things that they've learned from your insight. Kudos to the people at Leger, all 600. Was it 600 plus or so, right, Eddie, that work at Leger?
It's around 500 full-time employees, and then we have I forget how many in our call center and things like that. So okay. Yeah, it's big.
You got a big family over there. Well, we'd like to say a shout out to your family there at Leger. Keep up the good work. Thank you for joining us on our hit Canadian show, and we hope to invite you back, Eddie, in a while when we've got a little bit more progression. I'd love to get an update on your insight. Very valuable. And again, high five, Air 5 from ehCanada, Air 5. Thank you very much for coming, buddy. And thanks a lot, guys. And we'll talk soon.
Awesome. This has been great. Thank you.
Take care, buddy.
Wow, awesome.
Wow, eh? So let me just tell all you newbies who are joining us and late, because I know you are. Let me just give you a little feedback on our guest. That was Edwin Sheppard. If you're looking him up on LinkedIn, he is very active. The guy, if you want to know a lot about what he's going on, and their COVID tracker, which is unbelievable. I can't wait to see the numbers when they come out. I know I'm following it quite heavily because I think it's very insightful. And again, this is you, the public, that are giving them those numbers, right? This is not some spin from corporate Canada. This is actually you that are giving them the numbers. So again, thank you to Eddie Sheppard from Leger, and that's Leger360.com. And we'd like to thank him for joining us today on the ehTravel Talk Show, brought to you by ehCanadaTravel.com. So what do you think, Colin? Did Eddie hit it out of the park or what? Like,
I think Eddie nailed it.
I think he
did
did
a great job.
Out of the park.
Very entertaining and informative.
I'm sort of looking at Eddie this way. I'm sort of thinking he's like the Babe Ruth of tourism now.
Oh, and our best buddy.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. I mean, of course he is. He's now a buddy. Yeah. I thought it was great. He hit some major good points there, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if when our tourism clients get this in their email box and when they see it all over social media tomorrow, there was no real bloopers either. So editing's good. Thanks to Eddie, the editing is going to be minimal. I mean, that's a big item.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's such vital information for everybody to plan the future. Like you said, it's unknown, and to have statistics and tracking on what's actually going on from the people.
Yep.
Everybody's got to get that.
Yep. I mean, you can't find this stuff on the internet. Well, you could if you follow his tracker, but you couldn't get the information behind the information. You couldn't get
Yeah.
in between the lines. Um, and again, I think this is going. And the nice thing about when you have a show like this, it's live, it's real, and you're filling in those blanks, and the questions come up, and the public's getting answers because that's what the tourism businesses are asking and screaming for right now are ideas. Give
Oh,
me
yeah.
ideas, right? Let me know what's ahead. Let me try and navigate this storm because it's beating the blank out of me. And it's people like Eddie and like Ken Coates, Saskatchewan, University of Saskatchewan, Caroline, Childs from My Travel, all these people. Hats off to you guys for sharing this information and for helping out the tourism industry. So the next thing is next week we have Jed Brown. This guy is a character. He's a cracker, as they say out in the United Kingdom, because Jed is going to be joining us from Manchester, England. He's the director of EMEA, Europe, Middle East, Africa Division of the World Tourism Association for Culture and Heritage. This guy's a load of him, and he's also, he runs what's called the Low Season Traveler. His premise is this. You can save a ton of money. You can see beautiful things with no crowds if you go in the low seasons. And that's his whole premise because he travels all over the world. And he's proving to us over and over and over and over and over again that low season travel is not always a bad thing. Everyone if you want to sit on the beach, okay, you got certain months. But if you're not a beach person, if you're a heritage site, cultural tour, backpacking, camping, any of that stuff, and especially in Canada, because everyone thinks we only have 2 months. Well, out our spring and our fall, people, we got a wicked adventure season. And then,
one of the most beautiful times of the year. Spring and fall are just gorgeous in Canada.
And we got winter tourism. Surprise, everybody. We have a top winter tourism destination in Canada. So in the world in that, I mean, our ski hills are top notch, right? So Jed is joining us next time. He's dedicated to low season, and that's on June 16th at 7 p.m. Every Tuesday, 7 p.m. PST. You can join us here, and you can talk to our experts, strategists, futurists, and people at Eddie Sheppard, the people in the know, and they're coming on and sharing this stuff. So travel safe. And we're going to leave you right now. Colin, do you got anything you want to leave our people with?
Thanks for joining us, everybody. We appreciate it. Be well.
ehCanadaTravel.com. We are an 18,000 page informational website. We have 6,000 photos and tours. Now, look, this is common sense to me. Safety protocols are going to be a big part of tourism down the ride. How you plan, where you go. We're all going to look at distancing. We're all going to look at safety protocols. If you want to be really, really safety and you want to really know what you're getting into, we have an 18,000 page website of travel information on parks, trails, historic sites, rivers, lakes, and everything. Use it. Plan your travel. Know what you're going to. Know where you're going to. Know where these trails are. Know where these parks, these lakes, these beaches are. Research, because I don't know about you, but I can't stand going on a vacation and spending half my day on the phone trying to book something. Researching while I'm on my vacation, which park to go to, which trail to go to, which beach to go to. We're going to save you that. So use that website. And let me just throw it up there for you newbies out there. I'm going to throw it up on the screen. And that's the website to follow. And we do have an award-winning blog. And we also have our Experience Community Program. We're going to leave you with the isolation.
I got something to say now.
No, you don't. Isolation vacation. Okay, go.
I need a mute button.
Never.
I was going to say with ehCanada, I mean, we've been talking all about promoting your local trips and what to do in local travel. Join us and share your local area. Share your favorite park. Share your photographs when you go on this trip. Invite other people to come to your beautiful area. You can do that all on ehCanada. Join us and influence Canada, Travel Canada.
You can sign up, register as an influencer, start putting up your content. You get the credit, your business gets the marketing, and you are now the experience, and you are now the one they look forward to be the knowledgeable one. So as my intellectual and better looking brother stated, sign up, promote your community, start putting up some content, and your business will reap the benefits of that for 3-4 years down the road, because when you put content on our site, our experts go at it and making sure it shows up on the search engine. So don't waste your time, make it happen.
I was going to say, you don't have to be a business to sign up. We welcome travelers to come on and share your stories. And we actually have quite a few who regularly share this stuff with us. And that's great. I mean, join the community.
Yeah. Here's something you guys might not know, and I know we're running over, but hey, we what's our producer going to do? What's corporate going to do? Huh? What are they going to do? Look at the sets they gave us. I mean, come on. So one of the things I think we should mention, and I keep telling people this, is grab a video on our site, go check it out on YouTube. And our site, 80% of the time, has more views than YouTube does. And people just don't realize the traffic that's flowing through our veins here at ehCanada. So you believe me, you go and pick anyone, plunk it into YouTube, and I can pretty much guarantee that we outviewed them, and because people are looking at our stuff, they're planning. And if you're a business, stop paying millions and hundreds of thousands of dollars to advertise. Come and support a Canadian product, because Canada is where it's at. So let's finish with our isolation vacation. And what we're going to talk about today, because Eddie is from Calgary, we are going to show our 3 top and favorite historic and heritage sites from Calgary, Alberta, the home of Mr. Edwin Sheppard.